Hello friends and welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how to add the pagination in order to limit the product to return. And in order to do that, we're going to add the properties that will help us with the pagination. And I'm going to go into the I specification, as we're going to also use this specification pattern to do that. And I'm going to add the properties that will help us with that. And the properties that we need the take, and we need the skip, and you will need also the boolean that will trigger if now the paging is enabled or not. I'm going to go ahead and say int, and I'm going to call this as take, and this is going to get this as a getter, and I'm going to add this for the skip. And also again, I'm going to add the get inside, and I'm going to add the boolean that will help us to say if now the paging is enabled, paging enabled. And I'm going to use now the getter in here too. Okay, and after doing this, it's now time to go into the base specification to go ahead and implement this. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the base specification. And as you are seeing, it's going to be bringing the error, and you're going to use the quick fix here. And I'm going to go ahead and implement the interface. And after implementing the interface, you can see that we'll be having now this for the take, for the skip, and for the paging is enabled. Paging enabled. I'm going to copy this get and the private set. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to use, instead of throwing this, I'm going to paste this here. And I'm going to do the same for the skip. Like this one. And I'm going to do like this one. And like we said on add order by and add order by descending, we are going to add the method that will help us with now applying the paging. And I'm going to say protected void. And I'm going to call this as apply paging, and it is going to take two parameters. It is going to take the integer as a skip, and I'm going to also take the another integer as the take. And I'm going to go inside in the method in here, and I'm going to say that skip, and this skip, this one is going to be equal to skip from the parameter, and also for the take is going to be equal to the take from the parameter. And also I'm going to say that is paging enabled. I'm going to say that is paging enabled. This property, I'm going to set this as a true, like this one. And after we are done with this, we can go ahead and try to do this also into the specification evaluator. And inside the specification evaluator, and here we are going to first check if now the specification has this is paging enabled. And in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead, let me go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to change some behaviors. I'm going to say that if spec.isPaging enabled, and we don't have to add this for now, as we're going to compare this as a boolean. And inside the query, we are going to go ahead, instead of saying this, I'm going to say skip, and I'm going to skip now this from spec. I'm going to say spec.skip, and I'm going to take this one, and again I'm going to go ahead and take, and I'm going to specify that I'm going to say spec.take. All right, and that will be all. And after setting up this, it's now time to use it into our product controller. And when you go back into the product controller, you can see that we were now having to add these for the brand ID, the integer for the type ID, and the other one for the sort. And we're going to also add the other ones for the pagination. And as you are seeing now, it is starting to be a lot of parameters in here. It is better if you can set up the other class that can help us with taking up the parameters. And whenever we are going to set the parameters, we can go ahead and call that class, and it will help us with that instead of writing everything inside here, and can be somehow tedious and a lot of code. And I'm going to go inside the specification in here, and I'm going to create a new class that is going to help us with now the parameters, and I'm going to call this as product spec params, like this one, and this is going to take all the parameters that we need. I'm going to go ahead and press enter, and again I'm going to remove the unnecessary usings on the top. Use quick fix and remove unnecessary usings. And when we are inside this class, the first thing that we need to set as we are going now to add the pagination is now the maximum page size. It is possible that the users can cheat, even though you can limit them to pick up some products, and they can end up picking like a large number of products, which can slow our API down. And we have to say that I'm going to say private. I'm going to make this as a private const int, and I'm going to call this as max page size, and I'm going to give this as a 50, even though we don't have 50 products into our database, but I'm going to set this as 50. And after setting this, we need also to set now the page index. I'm going to add a property in here, and I'm going to say that this is going to be an integer, and I'm going to call this as page index. And this page index by default is going to be 1. Whenever we don't provide any page index, it is going to go ahead and start by the first page. And I'm going to add another private int, and I'm going to call this as page size. And I'm going to start by giving this as for example 7, so as to be able to get like 7 products. And I'm going to go ahead and again I'm going to add the page size. And for the page size, I'm going to say public int, and I'm going to say page size. And inside the page size, we are now going to add, we're going to start to use the full property instead of using the get and set as automatic. In here, we're going to go ahead and make this as, I'm going to say get, and the getter, it is going to get the page size that is going to be now provided. Okay. And again, for the set, we're going to try to set now the page size. If now the page size is going to be equal to the value that is going to be set, and we're going to check if this value is greater than the maximum page size, and we're going to add now this ternary operator. If this is now bigger than the maximum page size, we are going to return now the maximum page size, and we don't want our users to cheat. And I'm going to say that let me put some space in here. I'm going to return the maximum page size, and if to know it, I'm going to go ahead and return the value that now the user is now providing. And this will help us to avoid now the cheating that can be done by the users whenever they want to return more than 50. It is going to ignore that and return the maximum page size. And after we're done with this pagination, we can go ahead and add also the parameters for the sort. And I'm going to say public int, and I'm going to say this is going to be optional, and I'm going to call this as blind ID, and it's going to take a getter and a setter. And I'm going to add the other one for now, the type ID, so I'm going to use plop so as to facilitate this, and it's going to be integer, which is optional, and I'm going to give this as now the type ID. And after this, again, we're going to add another for the string, which will help us with the sort. And in this case, I'm going to say string, and I'm going to call this as sort. Okay. All right. And that's all. And after setting up this, you can go ahead and go into the controller, and inside the controller, we don't need to provide this as like this one. Instead, we're going to call the class now as a product spec params, and I'm going to call this as product params, like this one. And after this, we also need to change this, and you have to pass in now this as the product params. After this, we can go see that it is not complaining, and we're going to go to the definition of this specification inside here. And instead of using this as individual ones, I'm going to provide down also the class. So I'm going to say product spec plums, and I'm going to say product plums, like this one. And we are going to start to replace where we were having this with the new behavior. And the way we do that, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it, for example, here. And I'm going to give this as bland ID, and this was in capital. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to paste it here, this here. I'm going to say bland ID, and I'm going to do the same for here. I'm going to say type ID, and I'm going to do the same here, and I'm going to say type ID, like this one. And we need also to do the same for now the sort. You can see that it's now complaining. I'm going to pass in the sort, and again, well, we are going to compare these. We're going to switch to the params, and then we're going to take the sort, and this is now how it is going to be. And as we are now done with this refactoring, we need to check if we didn't break anything before we add the pagination. And I'm going to restart my server and try to get the product and see if now we didn't break anything. And whenever we are successfully having that, we are going to go ahead and add now the pagination. So I'm going to go into the API project. I'm going to say .NET watch run and press enter so as to be able to execute this. And once our server is now successfully restarted, I'm going to go into the Postman, and I'm going to try to get, for example, the individual product and see if now this is going to work. And you can see that we are getting this status of 415, which is now the unsupported media type. And the reason for this, let me go back to the controller while we are still in here. So let me go into the product controller in here. When at the first we were providing all the parameters in here, and we were going to the query and get the product. But as we were trying to add this as an object, it was trying to go into the body to see now if we can get this, and we didn't get this one. And we need to tell our API that we are going to get all these values from the query, and we need to add from a query here, like this one. And this will indicate that all the parameters that we're going to get as now this object are going to be coming from the query. So whenever we go back and try to send the request again, you can see that there is nothing changed. And in that case, I'm going to go ahead and try to restart now the server. So I'm going to go ahead and restart the server. Okay, once now the server is restarted, I'm going to try and send the request again. You can see that now we are getting the product, even though we can come and try to get the product by sort. Whenever you click on send, you can still get the product as intended. And once we confirm that we didn't break anything, you're going to go back into our specification so as to be able to apply now the paging. So I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to go inside the VS Code and in here. And before we start, we are going to go ahead and apply now the paging. And I'm going to code apply paging in here. And after calling this, I'm going to also take now the parameter from the product params. I'm going to say product params, and I'm going to say that it is going to take now the page size. And after taking the page size, I'm going to multiply now by the page index, and I'm going to say product params dot page index. And I'm going to -1, and after doing this, and I'm going to go ahead also and take now the product params dot page size. All right, now after doing this, I'm going to go ahead and test now if this is working. And let me try to get this without now adding any specification. And in this case, we're still getting the list of all the products, but when you try to get this, and you can see that now it is not remitting this. And I'm going to go ahead and restart the server, and I'm going to go back here and restart the server. And once the server is restarted, I'm going to go ahead and try to click the send again. And by default, if we don't provide any of the parameters, it's going to go ahead and return only 7 products, because now that is now the page size that we input there. So whenever we go ahead and use one of these requests here, we can go ahead and mess around and see now what this is going to bring. So let's go ahead and send. In this case, we're going to say that the page index is 1, the page size is going to be 3. So that for that case, we're going to get 3 products. So let's wait. As that we're getting now the 3 products. Whenever we change now the page index to 2 and send again, you can see that now we are getting now other 3 products, but it is now starting from now. This, whenever we set now the page size to 10, you can get also the 10 products in here. So whenever we go ahead and say send, you can see that we're getting now 10 products in here. And there is now one missing piece. You can see that even though we are getting the pagination, we are not getting the information about the pagination and the results that are now coming from the pagination. And we need also to add now the information for that, so as to be able to know which page we are on and the results that we are getting, also the parameters that you set as a part of the result. And you're going to continue in the next video, and you will see on how to do that, because this video is quite long and I don't want to continue to make it very long. So I will see you there in the next video.